Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of What's on My Desk, and today I have a pretty special one for you. Decided to go back to show you some more Richard Mille. I haven't done an RM episode in a while. This isn't going to be a market update or anything. This is just me showing you 3 random RMs that I picked, but they are very special. So lately you hear the buzz around Richard Mille, people saying, listen, Richard Mille makes too many limited editions, everything is a limited edition, it kind of loses appeal and so on and so forth. But I'm here to tell you that limited editions from RM, and other brands for that matter, are not just limited editions. There's a lot of thought and process and innovation that goes in some of these limited editions in order to accommodate a relationship that RM may have with an ambassador. Case in point, I brought today the very first Richard Mille Nadal, aka the baby Nadal. I brought the RM53 made for Pablo Mac Donough, who's a polo player, and I also brought the Dubai edition RM28 PVD. I'm going to start this off with the baby Nadal. Again, Nadal, as I said, is probably the most famous relationship between Richard Mille and an ambassador today. Most people that hear the word Richard Mille, they will think 2 names, Felipe Massa or Rafael Nadal. What is so special about this watch? Well, first of all, this is the very first Nadal. This is the RM35. Then they had the RM3501 and the RM3502, which is the current model. Think about having to create something for an ambassador that plays an extreme sport. And extreme sports are not necessarily skiing or snowboarding or some of the stuff you see in the X Games, like guys flipping over a motorcycle or something, right? Extreme to the sense that what kind of an endurance does a watch have to have when a guy that puts it on his wrist takes a racket and serves a ball at 120 miles an hour? The amount of force that has to be withstood by this movement inside this watch is something that I personally can't calculate. I'm not going to go back to my physics classes in college, but nevertheless, you can imagine what kind of a beating this watch has to be able to take in order to be able to withstand a professional player, arguably one of the best professional players of tennis out there today, playing a game of tennis while wearing this watch. All at the same time while making a watch comfortable for him to wear. I mean, if I'm playing tennis, and I'm not a tennis player by all means, but if I'm playing tennis or I'm playing any kind of sport, I take my watches off. It is not comfortable for me to wear a watch while playing a sport, especially one that involves my hand, such as tennis or let's say racquetball. But they managed to come out with a watch that weighs less than 20 grams, that's made out of materials that are able to withstand the type of abuse this watch has to take during the game, and at the same token mount the movement in such a way where any and all of those vibrations that take place actually have to be taken into account. And this is the watch that they came up with. And guess what? I've never had one of these things come back broken. People have dropped them. People have done multitude of things that they do with watches, and it takes abuse, and I've yet to see one break on me, and I've yet to see one go bad on me. And rightfully so. This thing is rock solid. Nothing can beat this watch up. Yes, you can put some scratches on it. You can put some dents on it on the case if you hit it hard enough, but nevertheless, the movement is dead solid in this watch. So what makes this watch so durable? Well, on the case end of things, this is called aluminum 2000. Aluminum 2000 is basically a combination of rugged light aluminum, magnesium, and copper. And I don't know what the ratio is, but whatever the ratio is, it makes this case extremely, extremely durable. What makes the movement keep on ticking by people by doing this with the watch all the time? And I know you guys always complain about me dropping the watches. Believe me, I can drop this watch from ceiling height and nothing will happen to it. Yeah, I may scratch the outside of it, but as far as the movement integrity of the watch, that will stay intact. They created a special shock protection Inca block on this, number 908 something, I don't remember what it is. And again, if you want full descriptions, you can go on Richard Mille's website and they'll give you all the nuts and bolts in regards to how this movement is mounted in order to allow for that kind of shock absorbency when, again, someone is playing tennis on a professional level. So personally, what is it that I love about this particular watch is the fact that it's super lightweight, it's extremely comfortable to wear on the wrist. Again, me having a smaller wrist, it actually fits my wrist much better than any other RM out there, such as RM11s, which are bigger, or RM1103s, which wear even bigger today. I'm gonna throw this guy on my wrist just to give you an idea of what that looks like. And honestly, I can't think of a more comfortable watch out there other than this RM35 baby Nadal. It's just, I mean, you forget this watch is on your wrist after 5 minutes of wearing, or even 3 minutes of wearing. I mean, this thing is just super, super comfortable. And somewhat iconic piece at this point, you know. Again, this watch is only 8 years old. As I said, I think it came out in 2011 is when they introduced it. But again, Richard Mille is not that old. So an 8-year wall from Richard Mille, I need the first, are pretty iconic pieces. Case in point, well, this came out of the gate retailing at $115,000. There's really no new ones out there anymore, as you can imagine. They may be in new condition. But one that's in good condition, or especially one that may have been serviced by Richard Mille recently, because again, the watch is 8 years old. With box and papers, you're going to be paying that. You're going to be paying its original retail. Why is this thing not trading at $150,000 or $180,000 like some of the other limited editions? Well, because it's small. Again, people want the RM11 case. This is basically the RM30 case, right? So those that wanted to know shape Richard Mille's, they want the RM11 case, and now they want the RM1103. They want the latest and the greatest. So, but that doesn't mean that's a bad thing. This is a watch that's 8 years old that's still trading at its retail value. Now, you can get out there and get one pre-owned, such as this one. This one doesn't have papers, so this one is going to run about $100,000. I think that's what we'll have it up online for. So yeah, you can get this watch from that $95,000 to $125,000 mark, depending on the condition of the watch, how complete it is, whether it's been serviced or not. So expect to pay that if you're looking for one of those. Moving right along to another PVD watch, and this is the RM28. And I've showed you guys the RM28 before, so you're asking me what is so special about this particular piece. Again, we talked about relationships. This is the RM28 Dubai, not Dubai, Dubai or Dubai. I'm not sure what the exact pronunciation in French is, but Dubai is a huge retailer in France and comparable to those of WOMD or Tournelle and some of the other bigger retailers, or Cellini, some of the bigger retailers and big names in the business. And guess what? This is a watch that they made for the Dubai retailer in Paris, going back again quite a while ago. I think this was in the very beginning stages of Richard Mille when they came out with the 28. And it's about relationships. You know, Richard Mille wasn't such a big badass 10 years ago. You know, they didn't open up boutiques left and right. You know, a lot of retailers didn't want to take the line because they felt that the line was overpriced and they couldn't sell them. And guess what? They couldn't sell them. You know, RM11s did sit in the boutiques for quite a while when I first started in this business. And, you know, I was getting them at huge discounts from dealers that couldn't sell them. When you have a relationship with someone, such as Dubai in Paris, and they carry all the major brands, right? Lang, Rolex, Jaeger, all the Richmond stuff, Panerai. I mean, everything and anything on the sun these guys carry, and they have prominent locations throughout Paris. This was a case where I feel that they were not the ones that wanted Richard Mille. Richard Mille wanted them more at the time. Of course, now it's the other way around. And this was not a Richard Mille boutique. This was just a line that these guys carried. And guess what? When they opened up that door, they made a limited editions for them of 20 pieces, giving them some sort of exclusivity. And they did it in the case of the RM28 that I'm showing you here. Again, not much different here from a regular RM28 titanium or rose that I've showed you before, with the exception of PVD and the general red and black theme, right? Limited edition, they made 20 of these pieces for that particular boutique, and it's just that. It's about opening a door. You know, again, Richard Mille wasn't always that big badass that, you know, had dealers in line waiting to pick up their line or closing dealers down and open up their own boutiques. There were times where Richard Mille had to do special things for big retailers in order to sort of open that door for themselves, and I believe this was one of those pieces when they made this for the Dubai retailer in France. Retail was $120,000. What's this watch trading for today? Drum roll, please. I believe we're selling this watch for $60,000 online pre-owned. You're like, wow, at Richard Mille at half price. What is going on? Especially a limited edition one of only 20 pieces. Well, I've talked about this before. The RM28 case was not the most successful case. Any of the round stuff that Richard Mille comes out with, it's not a flop. They still sell, but they definitely don't demand any kind of premium. They definitely don't sell over list. And on the secondary market, they tend to go down in price because, again, people wanted to know shape RMs, your RM11s, your RM30s, your RM29s, and other special editions such as the Baby Nadal. Big watch, bulky watch. If I put this watch on my wrist, you'll see what I'm talking about. So on the wrist, this is what you get. And I told you guys before, I don't care what the watch looks like. But it's obviously big on me. Would I still wear this watch? Absolutely. I could care less what people say or what people think. I love the way this watch looks. This is actually also very comfortable for the size watch that it is. And that's another great surprise with a watch such as this. Should you get out there and look for an RM28, it is still extremely comfortable on the wrist. Something about the fact of how they do the back of the case with integrated with the strap that makes this watch sit very, what's the word I'm looking for, ergonomically on your wrist, I believe. I don't even know if that's the right word to use. But yeah, definitely a comfortable watch and definitely a deal. Contrary to believe, you don't have to spend 100 grand to get into a Richard Mille. There are other deals out there, and if the RM28 is appealing to you, this is probably one of the good options for you to go with. And then if you wanted to step it up, let's say to an RM32, which is a chronograph version of this, you can do the same. Well, as they say, I saved the best for last, and I'm going to show you something super special and something that not a whole lot of people get their hands on, something that's pretty much impossible to find nowadays. I'm going to wind this watch so you can see. So what are we talking about? We're talking about the Pablo Mac Donough Tourbillon, the famous polo player, the RM53. Right off the bat, you're going to notice something, wow, something different, something funky, something you have never seen before. And obviously the first thing that stands out is the fact this watch virtually has no crystal. It sort of has this dome. A lot of people call this a butt. A lot of people call this a pair of breasts because that's what it looks like from the far. And the crystals are there. They're actually on the inside. Now this is a tourbillon time only watch, and it goes back to what I was talking about when it came to the baby Nadal. A polo player. Imagine the kind of force a watch such as this has to withstand when you are playing polo. Again, I'm not sure which force is bigger, Rafael's Nadal's backhand or the strike of Pablo Mac Donough when he's playing polo. But nevertheless, if I had to guess, both of these watches were vigorously tested in order to withstand some super forces onto the movement. So one of the first things you'll notice is the pitch of the dial. And it's not just the pitch of the dial, it's also the pitch of the movement. So if I flip the watch over, you'll notice that the movement sits at a 30-degree angle, which is fairly unusual for a watch if you think about it. Now, what was the story behind this? Think about Parmigiani Bugatti tourbillons, right? I'll throw one up on the screen. You'll notice that the timing is facing at you. So whenever the driver was driving the car, at a glance, you could look at his watch and see the time instead of having to do this. If you're going 200 miles an hour, you know, every tiny mistake can cause death. I mean, pretty much. So by driving your car and holding your steering wheel and having to do this, that's a problem. But when you're doing this and you get at a glance see what time it is, obviously that works much, much better. A gimmick nevertheless, but that's how it actually works. And same goes for this watch. Now this is slightly different than of a Bugatti watch, which sits pretty much at a 90-degree angle. This guy sits at a slightly different angle. If you notice it on the wrist, this is how I'm going to tell time. So if I'm playing polo and this is how I'm holding my stick, as I bring my watch up, I can see the time at a glance. Did Pablo Mac Donough actually do this while he was playing a game of polo? I highly doubt that he was looking at the time, but nevertheless, should he decide to look at the time as he's in the middle of a match, he can do it quickly and he can do it at a glance, and that's the gimmick behind this. But wait, there's more. So the inside of the watch is grade 5 titanium, and the screws that hold the movement, the plate in place, are also grade 5 titanium. And the way, and the reason that makes the watch a lot more rigid is when you have titanium screws against a titanium plate, the connection tends to be as tight as you can possibly get it. So while the inside is made of titanium, the outside is made of titanium carbide, which gives you the same integrity as titanium does, but makes the surface nearly, I guess, comparable to a diamond cutting wheel. You know, it's extremely, extremely tough, and it can withstand hits. And the idea behind this entire watch is that this watch is supposed to withstand a hit from a ball in a polo match. I've never been hit by a ball in a polo match. I'm fairly certain that would hurt like a son of a bitch. And if somebody asked me to put this watch up against the wall and throw one of those balls at it or hit a ball at it, I wouldn't be the one to test that out, but apparently this is supposed to withstand that hit. I'll take Richard Mille's word for it. I certainly am not going to give this a try for sure. Well, I shouldn't say that. Original retail price on this watch, I think when it first came out of the gate, was $585,000, and later on, I think they may have raised that price to around $620 mark. They made it in a limited edition of 15 pieces, rightfully so. It's a pretty crazy avant-garde idea, especially at the time that this came out. I feel like Richard Mille wanted to make a super exclusive, and I don't think he could have sold more than 15 of these. Fast forward to today's, good luck finding one of these. I'm not going to tell you what this watch trades. I will tell you that it's trading close to the retail value. But bottom line is, this watch is going to be one of those price upon request from a guy like me, because I really don't want to give out that information, for one. And two, this is one of those watches that you're going to have to pay what one is asking for if you want one, because I don't think there's anyone else out there today that has this watch available for sales. Most that bought these watches, they've kept them just because of how different it is and how iconic it is. And again, when this watch first came out, you could get a pretty hefty discount on it because the few dealers that had them, they couldn't move them. And now the end result is that they're just not out there. This is not something you're going to get out there and find. They made 15 of them, and once in a blue moon, one pops in. And in probably the last, in my entire career, I've sold 3 of these. Well, I shouldn't say that. In my entire career, I've sold 2 of them, and this is the 3rd one that I now have in stock. I'm heading out to the Hong Kong trade show. I highly doubt this watch will come back. This will get picked up either by a dealer or a few private customers that I meet out there with that, always expect me to bring something special. This is indeed something special. Probably the most special piece out of the 3 that I show you. Well, guys, that's it for me for today. Last but not least, I'm going to show you what was on my wrist. Let me throw that back on there. Kind of been on the vintage gig lately. I picked up this Aqualung from 1962. You guys are familiar with the Blancpain Aqualung. Aqualung was actually a retailer that sold watches, and they made a watch for them, and that's why it's called the Aqualung. Obviously a military diving watch. This has all the appeal of a vintage watch that I absolutely love. Again, I'm not going to get into the details of this particular watch. I'm just going to show it to you. Maybe I'll throw it up on one of the next episodes of what's on my desk. So guys, if you like this video, remember, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're already not subscribed to my channel. I'll see you guys next time for more watch reviews and other videos.